fully loaded. Let's give it a minute. There we go. All right. Hey, everybody. It's Jason Blaha here. Just thought I would sit down, do a Q&A and current events for you guys and gals before getting back to making all my Facebook posts and memes. But got a good training week planned. I feel like I'm going to hit some really solid numbers this week. I mean, stuff went great this last week. I'm feeling 100% recovered. I'm debating adding a pullover or a tricep extension back in at the end, though. Some of the days at least, instead of those band press downs. I might do that. But let's hop over. Let's discuss this little bit of current event that I thought was really amusing. I put up a screenshot of it on Facebook. But apparently there's a whole massive petition with like 15,000 people have signed it already, wanting to get Nicki Minaj deported. And again, it's obviously people on the far left doing it who don't seem to understand the concept of legal versus illegal immigrant, people becoming citizens. They really, and this, they're kind of showing their colors here, honestly. So again, the left showing hypocrisy. They're more than happy to deport immigrants who have brown skin if they just don't like their political views. If they're not liberals, that's enough for them to want to deport them. They don't actually want immigrants in the country with brown skin. They want ones who are going to vote for them. So, what's going on, guys? So Connor says, so what did Nicki do? She got on the whole turning point thing. She met with Erica Kirk. Spoke in the same speaking engagement that Vice President Vance did, and she's pretty much come out pro-Trump and is MAGA and is expressing conservative values now. So because of that, the left is hating her. They're boycotting her. Even this organization in the UK, this gay organization, because she had anti-trans comments, that they're boycotting her music, calling for all alphabet people in the UK to boycott her music. So I was not a big MAGA guy. I have been since the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I've come to realize everyone on the other end of that is evil. They've shown their hand. They've shown their hand, and I've kind of gone over to that recently. I made a post on it this morning on Facebook. At this point, I'm on board because I've realized the other end of the political spectrum represents self-admitted pure evil. And I cannot be with that. So they want to deport her. Exactly, Connor. But the thing is, because she's from Trinidad and Tobago. But the problem they have with it, she's a citizen now. She has American citizenship now. They can't just deport her. They don't understand the concept of legal and illegal stuff. Well, I made a post on that too, Leonidas. I can talk about that. You want me to read the post out to you? I'll read the post out. If you want to hear it. Hold on. I wrote it earlier this morning. I can link it over to you if you guys want to see it. I can link it if you want to read it. But here's my thing on it. So I'll link it and I'll read it out loud. Here's what I pretty much said. It said, I had a lot of people ask me why I became openly political again after mostly avoiding these topics and not even discussing how I vote for many years. The assassination of Charlie Kirk, whose work I was barely familiar with the day of, but dug deeper into. This was the catalyst that changed my perspective. When one side assassinates one of the few men engaging in peaceful, logical, public debate to discuss ideas, it sends a clear message. That message hit me hard like a 20-pound sledgehammer, and I knew I could no longer remain silent or indifferent on matters of evil, insanity, or the destruction of society. Then I added that quote, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Right? And that's the position I'm taking. And I think here's the thing that got me. Right? Here's the thing that got me. I watched the day of and I said this at the time. No, I don't have a favorite quote from Charlie Kirk. I watched a bunch of his stuff after he was assassinated to see what got people so stirred up. I wanted to know. And as I sit back and watch it, he appeared to pretty much be a good man. I'm not saying I agreed with everything he had to say, but I feel like he was a good man, right? And I felt like he was bringing intelligent conversation, peaceful public debate of ideas while being respectful to the people he debated to. Okay? This is how a democracy works. He was assassinated for it. He was assassinated by a guy who had converted to far left stuff, was gay and having a sexual relationship with an in the process of transitioning transsexual, right? Transgender person. Assassinated him. As far as is the official story, I'm not 100% convinced of that. But here's the problem. It was the response of the other side. I watched hundreds and hundreds of people while I stood here and watched that man's blood splatter across the screen in front of his wife and children. I saw a clip of his little daughter trying to run to the stage to save her dying dad, to get to her dad who was wounded. Okay? Think about that for a moment. That's what we saw. He was killed for public debate, murdered in front of all of us. And I saw hundreds of other people on the other side cheering and gloating. There were some who were the opposite, who said it was horrible. But I watched hundreds of people comment, "Oh man, I'm glad he's dead, man. I hope he's in hell. I hope, just gloating over a man and happy over a man being murdered in front of his family, not for violence, for engaging in public discourse and debate." Do we understand? To me, and I saw so many of them, that I came to the conclusion at that moment, one of those coming to Jesus moments where you have to step back and ask yourself, what are your values? And in my heart, I knew that their side represented evil. All right. I realized at that moment that that side who took that position represented evil. And that's a problem. So while I previously grudgingly voted for Trump, I've come to further dig into that and say, you know what, I think that we're at a point where if we want to solve problems, we have to have a cohesive ideology in front. Like if we want to change and fight back against evil to that degree and get rid of it, we have to have a unified, cohesive political front at that point. I don't think Trump can pull that off. I'm on board and I support him. I think Vance can pull it off. And I'm just going to call it now. I think J.D. Vance, that he's going to be my guy for president coming up. That's where I'm going to put my money and my vote. I think Vance is going to be next president. And I think he's the one that can make some major changes. Yeah, I get it. He's definitely a populist. But I think he's going to be the guy to get a lot of stuff done. So that's who I'm probably backing at this point. But yeah, at this point, because the people on the left have displayed this level of evil and degeneracy, I feel like everybody who's right thinking is going to have to get behind a single cohesive idea and ideology. And I understand the need for critical thinking on individual issues. But I mean, I get that with Trump, Connor. I still think he's done an overall good job. But at this point, though, I'm going to be a pretty adamant supporter while still saying I don't agree. I do have some issues with some of his policy. I'm still going to just pretty much support him because I see what the other side represents. And I see these same people who are displaying this level of evil hate him. They hate him. And that says something. Can we get those likes up, guys? We got 2 likes. Come on. Toss those likes up a little bit. I'd appreciate it. So that's my take on it. But Connor, I think the other thing too, you've got that perspective as a Brit. I feel like there's a certain significance to American politics that's going to be very different, right? I'm looking at this from the perspective of what's best for my nation moving forward in my society, and fixing the problems that we have in our society. You know, and that includes the drug and alcohol addiction problems. That includes the crime. That includes the degeneracy. You know, so and I think that's the problem. This other side represents pure degeneracy. You know, because that's ultimately why people hated Charlie Kirk, because he wasn't on board with their trans agenda. He didn't fully support their abortion agenda. And I used to be pro-choice, but because I've watched this other side take these positions they've had, I've had to re-question that. You know, Coach, what are your thoughts on the new accepting files showing Trump is involved? I don't think there's anything showing Trump is involved. I've not seen one shred of evidence. What are you talking about? No, and I think that's a dead end. I think that is a crazy dead end from the far left. And it's not that because I think Trump is the greatest human being. It's not that. They would have used it already. If they had dirt on Trump from there, he would have been in prison during the last presidential administration. He wouldn't have even made it to the White House. Zero chance. Let me be clear. If there was anything that could link him to those crimes, he would be in prison already and wouldn't have made it to the election. You know, I mean, didn't everybody openly mock George Floyd? I mean, does anybody think George Floyd was a hero? It's still ruled potentially that it was his fentanyl that was the cause of death. He was a drug addict and a violent thug. Like, are we really going to celebrate or be upset that he's gone? And I'm not saying police should be the one necessarily doing it, but could we argue the world is a better place with him gone? I mean, let's use the term Black Lives Matter. The man robbed a pregnant woman at gunpoint and held a gun to her belly, a black woman. So if Black Lives Matter to you, you would probably want pieces of shit dead who hold guns to black women's pregnant stomachs while robbing them. There, I said it. I challenge anyone to debate me on that. Prove me wrong. So what sort of person makes a martyr out of him? What does this, so anyone who sees that that was his behavior, that was he's convicted of, he was a drug addict, a fentanyl addict, a thug, and he literally went to prison for robbing a black woman, a pregnant black woman at gunpoint while holding the gun to her pregnant stomach. Tell me that you really think the world would be a better place if he was still alive, or is it better with someone like that gone? He's willing to kill black babies, so don't tell me it's about Black Lives Matter. All it took is one slip of the trigger or bump. I'll go there. I'm happy to go there. So anyone who martyrized him is a complete degenerate scumbag. I challenge anyone to debate that point. I'll wait. People burned cities over him. What does this say about them? What's that say about them? And I Connor, I used to agree with that position, but I think we're in a situation to where we are going to have to fix the problems with the system the way that we have. Right? Your only other option is a revolution, and I think we can fix it with a ballot. You know, I will agree, even though I don't like the band's message, I'll agree with that line for the Rage Against the Machine song. The ballot's dead, so a bullet's what I get. But we're not there. I think we can do that. Trump is pardoned all January 6th. Why is that bad? Maybe they felt that the election was stolen, and we're seeing more evidence come out that it was. What do you think about them trying to take away dual citizenship? I'm definitely speaking from a pragmatic angle, Connor. I'm very much a pragmatic person, right? We either have to fix it within the system, the framework that we have to work with, or we have to remove the framework. I think it's fixable with the framework we have. And I think that we saw that with this last thing is the reason we have a populist who made it in as president now. And I think Vance is going to do a better job. Like, looking at what I'm seeing, I think Vance will be a stronger leader than Trump was. Coach, agree with all the training vids you've been putting up recently. Just did my workout, 11 sets total at work. There you go, man. A very minimal number of sets gets the job done. I mean, I'm getting stronger, even on the lower carbs. We're getting stronger. Would you feel proud? I don't have any of his shirts right now. I'd personally be happy to wear a Trump shirt. I don't have one at the moment. Coach, I think your outreach and political views of the vision will become the next Charlie Kirk. Cancer awareness. What do exactly do? I don't know anything about this situation, but what cancer awareness? What causes cancer? We already know what causes cancer. The research is very clear. Being fat, alcohol, tobacco, refined sugars. Well, a cult isn't necessarily a problem. It's the death cult side of the bodybuilding. You're not seeing the MAGA people all dropping dead of heart attacks at 29 years old. Just saying. I'm going to refill my milk. I'm going to be right back. I shall return. No, you can ask training questions. It's still a fitness channel, bro. All right, we're back. No, dude, we can flip flop topics all the way through, man. What's going on, Black Harvey? Pragmatism works better than the idealism the left promote, especially when you look through politics critically as opposed to blindly, right? Rep ranges for a full body novice programmer using double progression. Keyword here, novice. So you're not squatting, 500 pounds, right? I like 5 to 8 or up to 5 to 10. Now, single joint exercises, if there's any in there, you may want to go 10 plus, 10 to 15. But your big movements, 5 to 8 or 5 to 10, I think work really well if you want to do a double progression on that system. No, I mean, because I wanted to remain non-political. And I wasn't super political. I want to be clear. I didn't care that much about politics for a couple of years, honestly. No, he's calling bodybuilding a death cult. He thinks MAGA's a cult. Political movements really become cults. I don't feel that I've said anything racist in my videos. I don't feel that I said anything racist in my video. Do you know what the word racism means? Do you know what a racist even is? 3 reps before going up in weight. I think that's reasonable. So that if you're doing the 5 to 8, it'll be 3 reps. People keep saying that, but I can't seem to get them to give me actual examples of things that are racist. Vegan Gains made fun of a man with cancer, multiple people. So the cancer research when you made now screams virtue signaling, right? That's for Chuck Grasher. Because as far as I know, Vegan Gains' claims of racist statements were because I made statements towards people who happened to be, and they weren't always ethnic minorities, by the way. So because I'm not allowed to say anything bad about people who are ethnic minorities, or I'm racist. And Vegan Gains is racist. In fact, his wife was racist, ex-wife. She called him the N-word on camera. What are we even talking about? You see me calling people the N-word on camera? He married a woman who called him the N-word on camera with a hard R. 6 to 9 for squats for 5 sets. That's a lot of volume. I'd drop it to 3 if you're going to take those reps up like that. All right. Bodybuilding is totally a death cult. So you still can't give me an example. Give me an exact quote that was racist, meeting the English language definition of the word racist. I understand the modern definition of a racist is anyone who disagrees with a liberal. That's the definition of racism. You disagree with a liberal on any topic, that's racist. But in the older version of the English language, the word racist meant that you either felt that a specific race of people was inferior genetically to another, or you hate a group of people because of their race. Those are the definitions of racism. Okay, are we clear? Words have meaning. You don't get to just change your meaning. So those words, that is what the word racist means. Quote something that I have said in a video that meets that definition. I'll wait. I love that you're really exposing the hypocrisy of the left through facts and logic. And I think that's how we have to approach it. Because I think what's important when you're dealing with this is to highlight how insane they are. Okay? Because when you're waging a war of ideas and you're trying to win hearts and minds with ideas, the more reasonable that you are and the crazier the other side sounds, the more likely you are to win. If all the other side is capable of doing is screaming Nazi and stolen land, and I identify as a pink hippopotamus, trans pan leprechaun, and you're living on stolen land, you Nazi, they sound like a fucking lunatic, and they are. Every sane person who hears that, you just won the debate against them. So you recommend 5 to 8 for squats. 5, if you're going up, I just do 3 truck. So if you're going to run double progression, I think 5 sets is a lot. Because you're not doing weight resets. Like a 5x5 with weight resets is a little different. If you're going to run double progression, I think for a novice, 3 sets of squats done every workout is more than enough. Is that fair? Because again, we're doing double progression at this point. You're taking every set really close to failure on squats. I would say we should refuse to debate gender with the liberal left, as it forced us to even consider that there are more than 2 genders. No, I mean, we have the discussion and point out their insanity. When they admit that they can't define what a woman is, they sound insane. All the weirdos will stop being woke as soon as they realize it's out of fashion, right? They sound insane. Like when they say that, they can't define it. It's just like this Walls guy, he's getting hammered by the gun community. They're giving him hell because he can't define an assault weapon. He wants to ban something, but he can't define it. You can't ban an object that you can't give a definition of. That would be like, Luke, your guitar. So it'd be like me saying, I want to ban assault guitars. You play the guitar. And you say, well, can you define an assault guitar? I don't need to outlaw them. Well, yeah, you kind of do. Guy at my gym tried telling me that muscle and hair growth is linked with penile size. Where does this mental illness come from? Yeah, that's crazy. I totally want an assault guitar too. I'm hoping maybe Fender will come out with one. All right. You never said the N-word even with so many popular rap lyrics. Of course I do. I'm just not going to sing it on camera. Oh, shizzle, my nizzle. All right. Coach, were you ever able to convert your past partners to adopt your political views? Do you think you have a healthy relationship with the opposing? I don't think that I can. I can't have. No, you need a degree of political overlap with anyone you're going to especially marry. Jason, have you ever watched the Final Battle? No, I haven't. I don't even know what that is. An assault car. That's all I want. You can get an assault car. You just go get you a Humvee and put some spikes on it. You got or a plow. Now you got an assault car, right? But I think for it to be defined as an assault car, we're going to need lots of black plastic added to it, right? Because I've noticed that's how the left defines how scary a gun is. Nothing to do with its function. It's wood versus plastic. So if you have wooden furniture on it, it's natural, right? So if it has wood furniture on the same weapon, it's natural because wood is natural and good. And if it's got black plastic, black is really scary and dangerous. Like we know this from the left, black is scary and dangerous. And it's also made from oil, which is a right-wing scary thing. So black plastic is an assault rifle and wood furniture is a natural hunting rifle. That's how it works. All right. Yes, you should wear the Spartan helmet when you do political videos trying to fight for what's right. If you debate with the liberal left, make sure you never get dragged into their framework. They try to do this too, manipulation. I know all politics. I mean, politics do suck, but we're at a point where politics is now affecting the fine details of our lives. I mean, we're at a point where people go to jail or lose their jobs because they won't use someone's insane pronouns. It's no longer a live and let live. It's either you toe the line or we cancel you. This is now where we're at. There's no neutral. We can't be neutral. We can't be complacent anymore. It's too late for that. I mean, what's the difference between a bow and an arrow and a gun? Both are made literally explosive. Arrows can do more damage in certain calibers. There's kinetic energy. I mean, separate calibers, but these are not comparable. As a firearm guy, come on. Right. Oh, I have some views that may be seen as extreme, but since I live in the UK, I don't want to go to jail. And therein lay the point. This is the problem that we have with the problem of politics. We're no longer allowed to just do our thing and be free. And, well, politics don't affect me. We're not there anymore. Those days are gone. Because that's why Arnold Schwarzenegger only did 3 sets for his Golden Six. No, it makes sense, Truck. I agree. Second Amendment is a top priority. But I mean, I'll be honest. So when it comes to that, I'm a ballistics guy. Let's be realistic. Bows are not comparable to firearms. Let's not be hypocrites. Let's let the far left be the hypocrites. They're really good at it. We don't need to try to out hypocrite them. Right? I mean, we're going to lose that one. We don't have to be there. Let's just call it like it is, though. Like I'm the first to admit, I think every fighting age male should own and be trained in it with an AR. Is it possible for you to name all the types of progression in lifting? No, because there's so many. There's different things that have been done, everything from linear progression to double progression, linear periodization, concurrent periodization, conjugate periodization, and so on and so forth, Yeah, weapons are tools, and they're critical tools. But again, we're coming from a very American perspective that other countries are not going to understand. And that's an entire massive discussion. Leonidas, I don't necessarily know how I feel about that whole topic. That's one I would really rather not jump into and get into a big discussion and fight of. But it is noted. What's your favorite type of progression for true novices? I like normal linear type progression. Slow linear, I think, works great. But the double progression works just as well because it's still going to scale with your muscle growth very effectively. Honestly, Coach, my best gains have come from 6 to 8 sets per week, sometimes 4 for a muscle. If I'm being honest, really hard sets at 4. Yeah. So, I mean, I've kind of said before, and it's almost worth discussing, but it's almost too late. I don't know what the far left thought they were going to achieve in the U.S. by telling a whole generation of white kids that they're evil and racist, and they come from evil, horrible conquerors and colonizers and all this stuff, because this is now what you're telling them they are. That could backfire on you really bad. Your ancestors were all white supremacists, so therefore you're inherently born racist. Do you think that's a good idea to imprint that on them? So if you imprinted that on them from a young age and then they become into that, whose fault is it? I mean, you've told them that's what they were. That's what you made them identify as. Do you think that could backfire? Like, are you trying to create the Fourth Reich? Is that your goal? Because that's a good way to do it. Like double progressive, how simple it is. Double progression is very, very simple and it works. I mean, it's time proven. It's people were doing it successfully in the 50s and 60s and getting great progress. It's very old school and it works. Um, you know, so no, double progression works extremely well, dude. I do a lot of double progression with a lot of my clients, to be honest, like very successfully. Is it fine to max out 3 days a week, followed by a back off set of the big three? I do rep work, but I currently only max once or twice. You can, but man, you got to really watch how heavy you go on everything else. All right. Um, I don't know that he sold. I don't think he sold out this term. I think he's definitely done some good. He hasn't done everything the way I would have liked. I feel like he's done a decent job. I'm not going to go into the topic on Israel or versus Palestine. That's one topic I choose to stay out of as far as any public discussion due to the complexity, the nuance, and getting hate. Like that's one to where any answer I give is going to make somebody hate me, and I don't need more people trying to take pops at me. I don't want to be out jogging and have somebody try to. I stay out of this one because and I'll be and let me be further frank with it. Um, I almost want to stay out of the whole thing completely. I've turned pretty much into a staunch nationalist. For me, it's America first. I'm kind of tired of being involved in conflicts with other countries, honestly. That are unless we have to. A far left girl started saying that sort of stuff to me, and I said my grandpas were from Nordic countries. When they see white, they go red. It's like, wow, yeah. Thanks for the response. I've noticed doing a heavy set of 1 to 3 makes a higher rep feel set easier. Yeah, no, it can. Especially a good training max first can prime you for that rep work. The thing is, though, once you've done that heavy work, you can only get away with so much volume after, and two, you can't do a bunch of other heavy stuff. Um, and I don't want to go far into that topic either, Connor, but there's definitely cause for concern there. There's definitely cause for concern in that area. You know, hold on. I'll type to you. Um, Scottish team, appreciate it. Yeah. So what I might recommend is something like if you're going to max every workout, only do like one back off set of that movement and at least 8 reps. Zach, I agree with that. Left wing wants conservatives in UK to drop the gun solely so they know no one will fight against them. The last straw we have is America having the ability to own guns. Absolutely. And it is our final bastion of freedom. And it makes the U.S. completely indefeatable. There's no military force on earth that could take the U.S., even if our military just stepped aside. If we disbanded our whole military right now, if Russia, China, and India, next three biggest militaries in the world, all joined forces and invaded the U.S., they couldn't successfully take it. This has been, military strategists have done the math on this already. As it stands, the rest of the world could not successfully, or at least the next three biggest countries, could not successfully take the mainland U.S. from the civilians and hold it. It's actually militarily impossible, even if our military stepped out of the way and just let the civilians do it. Again, the numbers have already been run. It's already been mapped out and looked at by strategists. We're completely uninvadable. We don't even have to have a military at this point to be 100% invasion proof. Kind of a big deal for national security. And we have over 500 million firearms and over 1 trillion rounds of ammunition in civilian hands. And a lot of us are really good at them. Matt says, that's what I did today with my squats coach. Did a heavy 3 and then did back off sets. Yeah, that works. Yeah, 100 million armed people scattered over 2.5K miles, various skill levels. Yeah, it's not like invading Iraq. Like it's already, the numbers have already been around. Texas alone would be harder to take than Iraq was, just in terms of the insurgency. Our insurgency size would be at least 5 times the strength that Iraq had, just the state of Texas. Yep. I mean, well, how many ARs do we have? It's not even, let's see, yeah, we got shotgun pistols, all that, but rifles. What's your recommendation for total weekly volumes? Don't go over 10 sets of muscle. Keep in mind, I only do about 6 sets of muscle, sometimes 9 for even me is advanced or technically elite. I'm in the elite category. And that's enough for me to make progress, and I always say that at the end of the day, higher quality sets will always trump more volume. Okay. Always trump more volume. For chest weekly, I do around 5 sets weekly at a very max. Yeah. I mean, I'm doing 6. I do 6. And I got pretty good chesticles. Iraq had like 60K, US over 100 million, 0 chance. Well, no, yeah, armed people, you mean? Yeah. Yeah. We don't actually know how many firearms the U.S. has. The FBI has admitted that. They know that it's over 500 million, but they don't know how many. They've said it could be, in theory, as high as 1 billion. They can't disprove that it is. Matt says, I'm actually feeling a lot better with some added fat in my diet. I usually go pretty low, but I bumped it up being in the 50s, and I've noticed it in my joints. Yeah, that's the problem I run into with a really ultra low fat. It's great for body composition, but I notice it in my joints. But right now, right now, I don't get any joint inflammation because I'm doing a bit higher reps, even though it's heavyweight. I think 100 million people would stand. Yeah, I think they would. I mean, I would. I would be definitely in line as armed insurgency in an invasion. I'm not letting someone come into my country. And I'm at least a 1 MOA shooter to at least 500 yards. Off sandbags, not with a full bench rest. So, I mean, I can hit a 5-inch plate at 500 yards just off sandbags or prone. So, not the best in the world, but I think that makes me problematic enough in that situation. Definitely puts me above average, but there's so many skilled shooters. Yeah, only reason Iraq and other countries even have insurgents is military taking arms and splitting from conventional military, right? Absolutely. Whereas in here, we're already armed, you know, already armed. Problem with conservatives, we stay out of drama and let BS occur, whereas the left actively try and manipulate people and brainwash them. That's the problem. More people have to stand up. Well, Zach, did you see my post off Facebook? That's why I've said I am actually being very vocal now in a lot of my positions. Yeah, they're not armed and they're not trained. And I think that's a big difference too. A lot of them got armed. They got armed, but they weren't trained. Whereas in the US, there's a lot of us who can shoot. These days, I'm way more right leaning. I used to be a moderate. Now, at this point, having watched the way the left has acted, has pushed me further to the right. The behavior of the far, I used to be a classic liberal. The behavior of the far left has pushed me to where I'm so disgusted with it that I pretty much just right wing. Right? Yeah, 6-shot 38 they've never used, right? Whereas then I can punch targets at 400 or 500 yards with an AR, no problem. You know. And again, it's not like I'm uncommon. They're more conservatives than you think. You just don't know because they literally don't want drama. You will know as someone on the left without asking. And I think that's a valid point, Zach. And I think we saw that with this election. All these people in polls, Trump was going to lose. Trump was going to lose. He won. And I feel like they cheated. I feel like they tried to steal that election and it still didn't work. Yeah, meanwhile, a pig farmer from Nebraska with a 50-round AR was usually 30, is the standard max of 30. And I don't like 30s for prone. Like if I'm going to shoot prone, I have 20s just for that. Because the 30s get in the way if you're going to be on the ground. But your point stands on the 12 gauge side. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I mean, I have all of those. I have multiple ARs. I've got a Mossberg 500. That's a Glock 19 sitting behind me up in a holster. Bag post is strapped. Right. Swag post up there with his Glock 9mm, holding it down. The funny thing is, the left don't realize the Palestinians are more conservative. Yeah, that's which is crazy. They don't get that. You know. Yeah, considerably more so. Well, that's strange how they'll take those positions, and it's just like you do realize, like their whole alphabet people thing. It's like, guys, like, do you not understand? It's about propaganda. And that's true. It's not so for guys to not overdo it in the gym. You think progress will be linear to effort. Effort is everything. Like really and truly, your effort's going to matter more than everything else. And again, overdoing it means it's excessive junk volume or beating your joints up too hard. If they came to UK, they would be discussing with the degeneracy in politics here. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, California. I mean, keep in mind that they're most of the Palestinians are pretty serious about Islam, and Islam is pretty clear on its penalties for, anal sex and stuff. Right? It's not. My understanding is, correct me if I'm wrong, Connor, that it's punishable by death. So, So, yeah, there's definitely some conflicts of interest. Is beef jerky healthy? I mean, generally, I guess it's going to depend on what preservatives are in it. BB King, which, by the way, I'm a fan of BB King's music. Like BB King, very inspirational guitarist. Is someone with a blues background. Um, Actually, I'm a fan of BB King. He definitely was a pioneer in music, particularly turning into rock and roll because of his influence in blues. Then affected the guitar styles and playing in early rock and roll because they drew from that. Yeah, no, BB King's solid. No, BB King's solid musician all the way around. Well, it's not that his guitar skills are that great. He's a good musician. He's just good at kind of tying it all in, bringing a good, solid emotion to the music. You know, he's definitely a musical genius. Yeah, he never even played. Yeah, he improvised really well. But what I mean by musical genius, like you're saying, the ability to improvise and the ability to put emotion into the music. And I think that latter is for me as a musician, that's how I define a musical genius. Can they put emotion into the music? When you hear their music, the totality of it, do you feel emotion? The emotion that they are attempting to convey and communicate. And if you do, then they're a musical genius. So he qualifies. That's how I define it. Do you have any viewpoints on the Ukraine-Russian war? Um, YouTube has given us very strict policies in the past on discussing that, unfortunately. So I prefer to stay out of that one. I have views on it. I keep them very private as a YouTuber because we were given a memo several years ago that they would unmonetize us. They would take our monetization contracts over that topic. I got an email. I always thought Mark Kendall from Great White should get more love. His guitar work on the Psycho City album. Great White was a good band. Yeah, the overall musicianship was good in Great White. I haven't heard them in forever. I'm obviously pretty passionate about music too. It's definitely up there in my list of passions. Strength training, music, firearms, way up there for me. But yeah, no, I appreciate just musical talent. So that's for me. Even though I might have certain genres I like, I think for me, someone who is appreciative of music, like when I hear just pure talent, I don't care what the genre is. I'm going to stop and listen and recognize it for what it is, right? And it doesn't matter what style of music it is. If you're a true musician and you hear real talent, you recognize it instantly. Actually, scientific ways to define musical genius, you can say. Yeah, I think it is. Realistically, if someone could focus on 5 main compounds with a couple of isolations for weaker body parts, how much would be lost if the main 5 compounds were machine-based? Significant potentially. And I'm going to argue because of the splashover in some of the stabilizers. And I will argue the case that stabilizers absolutely do grow as a result of big compounds. There's scientific evidence showing it. I feel like that needs to be a video topic. All right. Yeah, that's where Paul Carter and I differ. We have a lot of overlap in ideas. Like I agree with Paul on a hell of a lot of stuff. Right. So let me be clear. I have a pretty heavy overlap in agreement with Paul Carter. That one's the one that we very much disagree on. Right. But does that mean that his overall ideas don't work? No, they work. They work. And I think that's the beauty of when it comes to training. If you get it 80% right, you and your clients are going to get really good results. you know. And I think that's a fair way to approach it. Why do you think women are willing to pay to join fitness groups like CrossFit? A lot of them like that group social environment. A lot of them do. I've known women who do CrossFit and really, really like CrossFit a lot. Like they legitimately love going. I've had even family members who are like that. They really enjoyed the social group environment. They found it really motivating. And if it's getting them fit, then by all means, like I don't have a problem with CrossFit. I think particularly given our obesity epidemic, it is still a successful approach. And if people need that environment for motivation because they're not the same self-starters, then by all means, at least it's getting people in shape. I tried a variation of CrossFit circuit style circuits when I was like 14 to 16, battered my body a lot, right? And I think the problem I'm running into with me, like my body can only handle so much. When I'm pushing the limits on sets in general, I just can't handle much stuff. But I mean, you seeing the way that I train, I mean, it's like I did 12 reps with 405 on a high bar squat on Friday, and then 8 reps with 500 pounds on a deadlift next. There's a point where my body just can't handle certain other stuff. Like I feel like even my GPP, the running, like I can't handle any of it while pushing like that. Like 3 sets of squats and deadlifts a week, my lower body is done. But it's working. I'm making progress. Same thing, like 13 reps with a 45-pound plate on chin-ups. I can get away with 1 set, because I weigh 210. So and I want to get that to 20. Yeah, I want to get to almost Widowmaker style for all my lifts, though. I'm trying to do it on all my compounds is the goal. And then my little bit of accessory and doing a little more reps. So I'm trying to get to a lot of those things to where get to 20 reps and we increase weight. But again, as I've said, Dante promoted a lot of that back in the day, and he got people massive. And Dante was massive. Like I said, he posted on my Facebook the other day in one of the discussions he came through, which I thought was interesting. He wanted to correct me that he was pre-Dory. It was funny. He already lost the extra 11 pounds. Yeah, he should be down now. I'm pretty sure it is. So I'll be good probably tomorrow on the scale. Yeah. But those work sets, I mean, like to be fair, dude, I can't even do it. Like after that set of squats, I couldn't do anything for 10 minutes. I didn't even want to load the deadlift bar to do a warm up. 12 reps with that 405. You heard me like at the end. I'm like, shit, as I'm getting out from under the bar. I don't have anything left, man. I said 12 reps with 405 with just a belt on, no sleeves or wraps. And because I feel like at this point my body can't handle. I don't video game anymore. So I don't video game anymore. My Xbox is on my bedroom TV right now, and I use it just for streaming. I have it because it's an older TV, and then I have my main one in the living room. When Libra took me on hex squat with force reps, drop sets, and pause reps, combined finisher on the floor. Yeah, I mean, dude, I just kind of sat down. Also, that last set of squats, I just walked over and just sat on my bench for like 5 minutes. I sat there for 5 minutes before I even took the plates off. I'm just like, we're done. 01, what's a good percentage of 5x5 squats? I don't know. If you know your one at max, why are we working off percentages in 5x5s anymore? I don't think that we need to do it that way. You need to follow the standard progression for the 5x5 programs. John Porton, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, John Porton. Do you think someone visibly smaller if they didn't get the stabilizer development from free weights training compared to compounds? How different? Oh, I don't know that it's necessarily visibly smaller, but I feel like you're losing some gains. The athleticism will be worlds apart. Do you really think a leg press is going to give you the athleticism a back squat will? Weighted chin ups, weighted dips that move your body through space. Do you really think a machine is going to give you the same coordination? Come on. And I think that's my point with the big free weight movements. I don't like well, if we're talking purely about bodybuilding, well, I don't give a shit about purely bodybuilding. I don't care. You're going to spend the same amount of time in the gym. You might as well be athletic and everything else to go with it. Do you see the point I always make with that? You're already there doing the work, get all the benefits. And then people say they only care about bodybuilding. I'm like, you're not going to be a pro bodybuilder. Just stop. Unless you're going to make $1 million as a bodybuilder, the idea of only caring about bodybuilding is stupid. I prefer not to even talk about exes and past relationships at this point. I tried doing more machines a year ago, but I haven't gained in a long time. I tried doing more machines a year ago and found I just looked flatter. I mean, fair. It's the response you got, you know. And ironically, people will still say that, well, purely bodybuilding, but it's like how many Mr. Olympia competitors did all those big movements though? Hey guys, I think I'm going to wind down the Facebook. The Facebook is really slow. We didn't get any comments on the Facebook. That's interesting. I'm going to end it. I'm going to see how many views it got. It gets way more later sometimes. It's really weird. Really weird. It got like 200 views, but nobody responded while it was running. Interesting. It'll get more later. People will come back and watch it. What if you paired a leg press with RDLs and excess? How about we just stop? Hey, Ben, how about we quit training like a fucking pussy? How about if we did that instead? There's a hypothetical. What if we just used the big movements correctly and don't train like a pussy? What would happen if we did that instead? What if we did that? Ronnie Coleman did the big three basics and he was the goat. He did the squat, bench, and deadlift, and he was crazy strong at all of them. He benched 500 for reps. Jay Cutler said his best squat was 700, 550 bench for 2. So there we have it. All these Mr. Olympias were strong at these lifts. Yet the people will still try to argue, well, for bodybuilding purposes. Okay, one, but you're not going to be a millionaire bodybuilder, so I don't know why you're saying that. And two, all these top bodybuilders still did these lifts. So is their claim that had they not done those lifts, they would have been even better? So my answer, when people say that, I'm like, so are you telling me that Ronnie Coleman would have won 11 Mr. Olympias if he didn't do the big barbell lifts? If he didn't squat or deadlift or any of that, he would have won it like 11 times then instead, right? That has to be your obvious, that's the obvious answer. Because they're not great bodybuilding movements, so he negatively affected his progress by doing them. So he would have won it 11 times had he just not done those silly, stupid power lifts. Same with Arnold, man. Had he not wasted time on the bench press and the squat and the deadlift, he would have been so much better, right? Franco Colombo. So all those guys, they would have been better had they not done them. You know? Only reason Dorian didn't back squat because of past injuries, right? Injuries matter. Jay Cutler was repping like 315 per 12 on an incline. Yeah, exactly. You've got to wonder, have to wonder at these ideas, don't we? I think that we do. Yep. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wind it down. I have more work I have to get done tonight. Business, but I gave you guys an hour of my time today. So give you guys a bicep shot before we go. Oh, Mount Bicephalus. And we're out of here.